Good evening, everybody. I'm glad to see everybody here. The weather's being cooperative, so that's always nice. Again, I'm the president. I'm Chris Frederickson. The rest of our board is Tony Peterson. He's our vice president. Joni Griffin is our treasurer. Brandon Baggett is our secretary. Andy Anderson, Bruce Polberg, and Chad Julesgaard are all directors. So with that, it's 5:55, and we'll call the meeting to order and go ahead and begin here. Start off with the secretary's report and review the minutes from last annual meeting last year. You want to read those aloud? Why don't
Or we can just read them. Everybody has a copy in there.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so everybody should have a copy of last year's minutes. We can just read them quietly, and then if we have any objections or anything.
Yeah, if anyone has anything to change in them, please say.
Make a motion. A lot of them are just reading the newsletter, the report.
Has everyone had time to read last year's minutes?
First motion to approve the minutes is read.
Motion by Bruce to approve.
I'll second.
Second by Deb. All those in favor say aye. Opposed? Minutes are approved from last year's annual meeting. Treasurer's report for this last year.
Okay. So let me give hopefully a quick financial overview of 2023. You guys should have the financial reports in those packets as well, including our statement of activity, which shows it's our profits and losses. It shows your business revenue, our donation income, our grant income, our operating expenses, and then investments and all that fun stuff. And then the other sheets basically are assets. So let's go over that. So first we like to start with our business revenue. Our business revenue is basically what our gift shop does. We sell merchandise, both in-store and online. So if you see something for web store or online, or mail orders, that's mostly where that's coming out of. And then we break down categories for flour, the ground flour that we sell inside the store and again online, food, and then tours, which are currently in-store only, but there's a special message coming soon about that. So in 2023, this was a big year for us. I mean, a huge year. That's actually why I took up a lot of space in the report with the giant graph that goes back to 1994. I could have went back earlier, but 94, 95, 96, that's really where the peak was when we were selling hundreds of plates, and Faye can attest to this, how many plates she was sending out in those years. We haven't seen numbers like this year since 2009. It was an incredibly busy year. And what I also want to indicate is that that's not necessarily a sign of a trend. Look at everything in between there. Look at from 2000 and essentially 2001, 2002, and just trace that line going down all the way until these last couple of years. It's been a rough go. So I want this to be an indication of something new. That was the basis of the newsletter. It's the basis of the message in my report, is this is something to build off of. But we're going to have to work towards that, and that's going to be what a lot of my messages from this meeting are going to be. So merchandise up 204,000. Mail orders, 102,000, flour, food, tours, $394,670 rounded for the year. Again, those are huge numbers. Our organizational revenues, this is what I'm breaking down for our, oops, sorry. This is what I'm breaking down for essentially money that we're generating as a nonprofit organization. So the business is set aside for a second. We're thinking about memberships, donations, and grants. Our grant income, that's actually like physical dollars. The awarded number is a little bit different. So if you see a different number in the report, that's why. We got an Iowa Tourism grant for $6,900 this year that we won't see until actually this month, January. So that money wasn't spent in fiscal year 2023. It'll be spent in fiscal year 2024. Memberships down slightly. I think that's partly because Joe has been so good at selling lifetime memberships. I think they will be even higher this year. She has bothered a lot of people, and we've gotten a lot of memberships, and she's done very well. Donations down slightly this year. That's kind of give or take any given year based on how people are feeling, which is fine. And then grants are up. We took advantage of hotel motel tax, which is something that we haven't really done in the past and necessarily have been able to do in the past because of the hotel situation. We got money from the Shelby County Community Foundation twice. We got a new grant from the Pomeroy Foundation. And then there were a couple of other things thrown in. And I apologize if I'm starting to speak too quickly. I'm going to try to slow down. But our total revenue, that number in yellow for 2023, $565,574. That's not including like our endowment and things like that. I'm trying to keep this as simple as possible just so you see what's going into the business and coming out of the business. And that's most of what the numbers that I'm presenting on today will factor around. These are our expenses. Now you're going to notice something. Total expenses, $560,229. Our total revenue is only a little bit more than that. And this isn't including depreciation. It's not including losses in stocks, for example. Not a good number. We'll get into that. Our cost of sales this year, part of why we sold more merchandise is because we had more merchandise in the store. I spent a ton of more money on product, so we were pretty much never out of things. Actually, we were pretty much drowning in product, as my staff can attest to. Our basement was filled from pretty much July all the way through Christmas. And actually, there's still a lot of stuff down there. Payroll went up a little bit this year. I had staff covering for doubles on Saturdays. I don't know when is the last time we've actually done that on a regular basis. We had an extra person on Fridays. We needed it. And we're going to need even more this year. And then operations. Operations went up, and I'll go into that a little bit as well. There's a couple things that I hope to fix, but there's only so much we can do. Things are getting more expensive. So these are some of those things that are getting more expensive. Again, merchandise is a big one. You have to spend money to make money, and that applies more to merchandise than anything else. If you don't have the product, you can't sell it. And the margin for profit on product isn't very high, which means that it's incremental. If you sell a little bit more, that's great, but you have to keep selling more and more and more to really make a dent. And that's the struggle that we're going to have going forward, is just the amount of storage that we have. We don't have a warehouse. So we can only sell so much product, and that puts us in a bind when we need to make X amount of dollars to break even. Shipping costs doubled. So you'll see in this financial report, we spent about $30,000 in shipping and postage this year. Average before that was $15,000. Costs have gone up. That's something I'm hoping to address this year by looking into a couple different shipping companies that essentially get discounted rates. I'm hoping we can work that out, but it's something that we're also dealing with on the consumer side of things because people aren't happy we don't offer free shipping. People aren't happy that we don't give you the same services as Amazon. And then on top of that, prices go up, but we try to keep prices reasonable. Plates this year, the MSRP for a Danish plate is $180 this year. That is a massive increase. And we sell them every year at a 20% discount, the lowest merchandiser agreed price for $144. That's still a $20 increase over last year. So we might lose customers from that. And on top of that, they want free shipping. What do we do? Wild apricot, this is an expense that's going to only apply to last year because I paid for a 2-year subscription. You get a discount if you do that. So this is a number that it basically pays for the service through April 2025. So I paid it all up front, which is why it breaks down a little bit differently. That number is featured in computer software on this. That's why that's almost $10,000. Consulting, that factors for Eric Battenberg's visit when we brought the millwright from Denmark. That is what that expense is. That's not a normal operating expense. That's a one-time thing that otherwise would probably be paid for by a grant or something else. We used our special projects funding to pay for that trip. And then tools and maintenance. I invested a ton of money, probably somewhere $3,000, $4,000 in new tools and equipment for the windmill, so I don't have to call Andy every time I need a big wrench. We now have a chain lift inside that can hoist up the grindstones and anything else we need to do if we need to operate it. That was necessary for Eric's trip. We needed straps. Those two things alone cost $1,200. We now have power drills, ratchet sets, Allen keys, all the stuff that you need to maintain a windmill. All the things that make it more self-sufficient because, like on Yule Fest, when Dick Saul called because he was watching the mill cam and he noticed that one of the shutters was loose, a bolt had fallen out. Well, I was able to just grab a ladder that I paid for and go out there and replace the bolt. No contractors, nothing. I just did it. And so that just saves us time and money in the long run. And it just makes the windmill easier to operate because we can address an emergency as it happens. The tools are a part of the job. Tom Potts, I'm sorry to say, is not here anymore. We need to be more self-sufficient in that regard. So that's what those investments were. And they are investments. And these are our projections for 2024. For the first time, and I don't know how long this year, our organization will have a budget that my board will hopefully pass in the quarterly meeting to follow this. And it's not good. So all these positive things I'm talking about, we still have a problem. So our projected income, and I'm estimating 15% growth in sales. We were at like 18% this year. It was just a ridiculous number. So this is still pretty extreme. 15% is hard. We have to really work for that. That's not something that's just given. 10% maybe. 15, I don't know. And that's hopefully it would net us $492,000 in gift shop revenue. So, and then I'm factoring in some grants and stuff into that too, but I'm excluding donations because donations should never be guaranteed. Never be guaranteed. This organization has been bailed out a number of times in the last several years. And we all know by who, okay? And that's not bad, but it's not good either. My goal for this organization is self-sufficiency, to be financially solvent and in a good place financially. That means growing our endowment, it means increasing donations, it means increasing our volunteering capabilities, it means growing as a nonprofit that is not resting on the business side of things, which are clearly not going well. So, if we factor in what my estimated costs of goods are for next year, our payroll, we just hired a new person who will start on Friday, who will be a steady part-timer for us. She's not here tonight, unfortunately, so I can't introduce her, but she needs money to work this job, and I have to be competitive with money. I can't just, it's hard to find people these days, especially somebody reliable with sales experience. You have to pay for that. So payroll's going up. And then our operation costs, this is me trying to cut the budget. I'm hoping that I can meet that number. I don't know if it's realistic. So our total operations cost, and again, this does not count depreciating assets. It does not count shingles that starting to wear and things like that. This is just operations. We're in the hole $60,000. And to date, we have this month received $1,100 in donations. It's a long way to go. The donations we got for the annual appeal last month, thank you to all in this room who gave, they're still paying for last year because we finished at a net loss that year. So, again, something to keep in mind. That's my financial report. All the numbers are there. Do we have any questions before we make a motion to pass it? I'll go over that in yeah.
Does anyone have any questions or comments on the treasurer's report for last year? If not, I'd entertain a motion to approve. Andy? All those in favor say aye. Anyone opposed? Treasurer's report is approved. Old business, which we probably don't have a whole
No.
lot from the last annual. We'll just move right into new business. Election of board members for the coming year. Does the nominating committee want to talk?
I don't know, I was thinking nobody was talking here, you know, we didn't have anything read to us, so that's okay, I will talk. As I want to do. Joanne and I, we get together, we discuss this, and go over, you know, the list of everyone who's a member, and try to figure out who might really fit well. Well, I guess two are up, and Joni, of course, is going to be up, so she is here, hoping that that goes well for her, so she can stay as treasurer, is that correct? Treasurer, so. And then, most of you probably know Nicole. Some of you who don't know her, she's lived here now a little over 3 years, right? Moved in here 3 years last November. Has 2 kids, lives up on Gilbert. I was going to try to test my memory on that, but that's okay, you can tell me. Anyway, yeah, and she works at the bank, so if you've been in the Shelby County Bank, you've seen Nicole. Nicole Butler is her name. And we're just going to really, I think, really appreciate having her on the board. She's been in an administrative position with Habitat for Humanity in Council Bluffs quite a while. So she's got some, I think she's got some good ideas and some good thoughts. So she's the one that we're putting up to fill Chad, who moved away. Chad Stuart moved away. Yeah. You're smiling, did I say something wrong? No, you're doing great. So, however we want to proceed with that, sometimes we have little things that we fill out, like voting things, but I never received that. So,
Yeah.
does the president want to call for a
Unanimous
with those
ballot?
2 nominations?
Yes, if someone would like to make a motion of a unanimous ballot for the candidates as presented, I would entertain that. Andy, motion, second? Calla, all those in favor of unanimous ballot to approve the directors for the 2024 year, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Congratulations to the 2 new board members. And thanks to Chad for his years of service also. Just a side note, I guess, since it's down here, myself and Bruce Polberg will enter our final year of each of our terms. So next year, the 2 of us will be the 2. I will go off. I think Bruce can stay on another 3-year term. So nominating committee, would you be willing to stay on the nominating committee for next year?
Let's think of, no, I'm just kidding. Yeah, we can do that.
I would appreciate it if you would.
Let us sleep on it for a while.
Yeah,
Maybe somebody else would like to do that.
yeah, and there's still, I guess Pat isn't here this year.
Pat hasn't really sort of joined with us. We haven't been able to get him.
Okay.
I know his phone number changed, and I finally found that phone number, but
Yeah, so if we come across someone else who would like to help with that, even if Pat does also,
sure.
talk to Bill or Joanne. That would be wonderful. Okay, the director's annual report.
Hello again. I'm the guy that sucked the air out of the room a few minutes ago. Now it's time to talk about the good stuff. I said the things that needed to be said. Unfortunately, because of the nature of the annual meeting, the bad stuff had to come first, or at least, you know, the realistic things. But now's the time to really celebrate this year because it was a very good year, and it's something that we shall be very proud of and use it to look forward to years in the future. We don't have to be too cynical, at least not as cynical as me. So let's get started. So we started this year with a lot of big changes, and the first one was a new brand standard. Our past logos had kind of fluctuated from drawings that had been done probably, in my best guess, the early 80s or earlier. The person who drew this logo, there was supposed to be an article in the newsletter about her, Jessica Rold, who's Steve Rold's wife. They now live in Fanø, Denmark. She's a graphic artist, and she designs most of the graphic artwork for Steve's Beers and all of that. And so she had a lot of good experience there. Sorry. And I talked to Jessica about this right after my trip to Denmark in 2022, and she was happy to come on board and do this for us. And I really thought she nailed it out of the park. I think this logo has been received locally with mixed reviews, which is fine. It's a big change. But I do want to go through very, very briefly my thoughts behind this. When you think about Scandinavian marketing, it is very sleek, it's very modern. When you see an old drawing of a windmill that's got 1,000 different pencil lines on it, you don't see that. So for locals, that's why I went to Deb King and had some other images drawn, like the windmill here. She also did one with Christmas lights and a snowman that's very cute, and it's a sticker inside the store now. But for our business image, you need something that matches people's idea of what Scandinavian, what Danish, what Swedish is. You need that to be successful as a business. If you're not marketing yourself to what people expect of you, you're not going to get anywhere. So we can still sell the traditional stuff that is authentically Danish and celebrates heritage, but we do so with a modern touch. And that was the idea behind this design. I intentionally did not want to do the harsh Dannebrog red. That's a very hard marketing color to use. It also takes a lot more ink, which was something I was kind of cognizant about as I was thinking about when we mail out, membership letters and thank you letters and stuff like that. It's a lot more ink that goes into that, a lot more red ink. It's a lot more expensive. It doesn't necessarily print that well either. So this was something that was meant to just kind of calm that a little bit, but still have a red touch to it, and it also matched Elkhorn school colors, which I thought was pretty cool. Jessica never actually ended up finishing the design. She had a grindstone to start with, but it wasn't the one that we wanted to finish with. So Deb King, I approached her with drawing a stone that was more accurate to ours, so that actually matches our design for the most part, and that kind of finished it off. And then the wording, this font is called Inter, which is an open source Scandinavian font. It's Scandinavian through and through in the way that a logo should be. And it doesn't have to be used for everything. It's just our brand standard. It's what shows up on letterhead and all that kind of stuff. That's the point. So I have it on signage in the store and things like that. It just combines everything into one cohesive image. And we've used it a lot this year, and I think it's been a pretty good option for us. Sorry, the up and down is still confusing me. Come on. Bear with me a moment. Oh, that's why. So other big changes at the beginning of the year. We have a new nonprofit partnership with Nonprofit Association of the Midlands. That is a 501c6 membership organization for small nonprofits like ourselves. So what that means is that, for one thing, we have to use their accountants. Their accountants won't file a 990, but they are still our regular CPA. So they're the ones that compile these reports that you guys have. And it's extremely economical. Our past CPA, we were paying upwards of $2,000 a quarter these last few years. I give them probably $125 a month. It's pretty crazy. And part of the expenses in this cycle are just because of Q4's finances from last year. That's why this year is still about $5,000 in accounting fees. But there are other benefits to using them as well. One, they have a huge bank of web resources, like if you want to redo bylaws or establish a volunteering committee or things like that. All that stuff is on there, and they have a very helpful staff. But they also have other partnerships as well. One is US Pay. We just switched credit card processors to the chagrin, I think, of every single one of my staff, including myself, in October. Their new credit card reader is not fun and kind of annoying, but it saved us $780 this last quarter because we were getting ripped off in credit card fees. So we get a special nonprofit rate because we're a membership with this group, and it costs us like $300 a year to be a membership of this group. It's a no-brainer. We'll probably save around $3,000 next year just in credit card fees. So that's something I'm looking forward to. Wild Apricot. So this is the big expense that I mentioned earlier that we spent about $8,000 for 2 years of service. Part of that was paid for by a grant with the Pomeroy Foundation last year, but I ran into the immediate problem. One, as soon as I committed to Wild Apricot, they decided to up their services by 25%. And the other, we needed more contacts than I originally wrote the grant for. Originally, I was only going to write it as a membership management tool, but it made more sense to actually absorb our entire customer base into there, which is about 3,000 contacts, if I called it. So it took out the people that hadn't bought from us since like 2016. So we did that, but naturally it cost more money. So some of that money came out of pocket and wasn't covered by the grant. But that's okay because, as I will explain a lot tonight probably, Wild Apricot is totally worth it. I'm going to go into most of the features later, but it's a fantastic donor and membership software. It eliminates the need to keep 1,000 different spreadsheets that kind of track donations and memberships before today, and we're still working on getting this information in. If somebody asked me how much this person donated in the lifetime of the organization, I couldn't tell you. There's no record of that. There's just binders. Now it's all compiled in one place where people can also log in and see what they've donated if they're curious. They can manage their memberships themselves, and we can do that on our end as well. However, we still have Jo here, so if you don't want to use the computer, she is more than happy to come to your door, as she's proven time and time again. And I promised something else last year. We would start a quarterly newsletter. I think this has been a big hit with everybody, and I'm also proud to say that starting in October, I've printed an extra 60 copies, and I've dropped them off at Salem. Because we had a couple members there, Peggy Hansen being one of them, a couple others. It's impossible to mail them anything. I don't know how they get away with that, but I'm happy to drop those things off. And a lot of them had been involved with the mill for years, and they're just excited to be reading about it, because as Steve Turner's told me, when I've been writing the columns in that paper every 2 weeks, they love it. So it's a no-brainer, and I'm hoping to crunch some numbers to see what it might cost to send some to Heritage House and Hanson House, the one in Friendship House in Audubon, and maybe just make a big gig out of it, just free newsletters for everybody. But it's been a huge hit for us. We're really happy to have it. I'm happy to keep doing it. I feel bad for the person that comes after me because I write inhumanly fast. So I can do this in a weekend when most people can't. It's the one thing I'll ever probably brag about. But hopefully it keeps going past my time, whenever that is. The gala. So we did a spring gala this year, a little bit different. We found that November was a little crowded for us in 2022, so we pushed it back. Mixed results, I think. I think we have to be happy with the money. We are competing with the town pool. We're competing with the daycare. We're competing with Salem. We're competing with the church. We're competing with the museum. There's a lot of organizations that need money and not a lot of money in this area. That's fine. I don't know how we're going to do this event going forward. I know a couple people have asked me, even tonight, if we will do a charity auction again. Part of me thinks that it's very it's run its course and that people are kind of dry. The ideas have dried up. It was a lot of the same items. I'm torn so many different ways. It's hard for me to put a lot of energy into organizing a new event like this, as important as it is, and that makes me feel bad, but there's just so many things going on. It's hard for me to focus on that for more than a day. I'm open to ideas at any time. If anybody wants to, approach me about that and suggest something, I always think, well, wouldn't it be nice if we just get together and have a meal and have the auction? But then we're all together. We might as well have a silent auction. But then we have a silent auction. Why don't we just get Wayne down here and have a real auction? You see where I'm going with this? It's a big circle where you end up back at the charity auction with the dinner. So it's a great idea. I just don't know if it's still worth doing or if it's having some kind of different entertainment. I've talked to Brandon a little bit about the theater troupe kids and what the museum had for their 40th anniversary at Sandsongdokten, over the summer. Maybe we can do something different like that, where the kids do Hans Christian Andersen play or something. I don't know. I'm open to anything. It's not that I don't want to do it. It's hard to tell if it's worth it right now. And granted, last year was kind of weird with the way it was on Palm Sunday and all these things. There's other factors that go into it, but I'm open to hear your ideas too. And these next few slides, I'm just going to quickly run through the course of the year, which if everybody's been reading the newsletters like you should be, you already know all this, but we're going to go over it again anyway. So both gearboxes broke down in April. That was fun. I want to thank the Matisons, Radine and Steve from Audubon for volunteering their time to help us in part for the first one, and Mike's Welding, I know. Mike isn't here tonight, but I've been stressing this a lot, that we're very appreciative to have such a skilled machinist so local to us. I mean, it's a hidden gem for us, as Andy always says. And Mike did a lot for us this year. His shop fixed both gearboxes. They fabricated the weights that were on the sails. I've taken my A-frame that the wind broke a couple times, and he's fixed that. He just fixes everything. So be very appreciative to them if you ever run into them, because he's done a lot for the windmill. New break room. This looks like it's always been there. It wasn't there until the end of April. And it took a while for some of our staff to remember there was a sink there, but once they started connecting that there was a sink there, it's really been a big hit since. We've been able to wash all the dirty, dusty plates we get donated to us there. It's just been a huge hit ever since. So we're glad to have that. And again, paid for by a grant. We didn't have to put any money into this, just the time to put it together. Earth Day. This is something I would like to do more with in the future. Every year we host the EHK kids for some Earth Day volunteer work where they come and rake up leaves and spread mulch and plant flowers and all that. It's a great time for everybody and hopefully something we can branch on. Tivoli Fest was great. The Vikings had some obstacles with the flags this year, but everybody had a great time. I really don't have too much to add for Tivoli other than that. Obviously, the Windmill's kind of the focal point every year. We have the dancers, we have the Vikings, the Windmill's open. I couldn't run it, unfortunately, because the Windmill's still broken down, but hopefully this year we can do that and do grinding and all that fun stuff. And some news on the Vikings really quick. They have lost their home base in Missouri. So they had a fort called Ravensborg where they had some kind of homegrown plots with flax and other things. They would grow their own materials to use for their clothing and their tools and stuff like that. The guy that owned that, his name is Sam. He had the Viking ship that's been up here a couple times that they put on Prairie Rose, has since, because of his health, I think, had to sell the property. And so they just have Elkhorn and that's it. And we are still smack dab in the middle of their territory, which stretches between Des Moines and Lincoln. So they're considering doing more in Elkhorn going forward. We might have 100 Vikings for Tivoli this year. If we get all of them, we'll have 300 and need like 15 porta potties down there. I've already talked to METC. We have the whole lot. I just have to get the insurance waiver forms through, but they'll be down there for Tivoli probably if they get what they've been telling me, 100 of them. And who knows what that entails. It'd be a, yes, Bill.
Are you perhaps hoping that the field of flags does not?
It's not going to be there. I've already talked to Steve Turner. It's going to be at the park.
I was just going to mention that.
Yep, we cleared that up. We had new events this year. We had a book signing in June where we also did an Appleskiver demonstration. That went really well, especially since the store smelled great afterwards. We had food trucks this year. Due to restaurant closures and things like that, we took it upon ourselves to kind of just bring more food vendors into the area for people, especially during the big conference that the Danish American Heritage Society had here that same time frame. And that went over really well. We got a lot of good feedback from having the food trucks here. And we're happy to keep doing that. We're always looking for new options. The hardest part with food trucks is, in general, just kind of the volume that they're going to do here. Any given food truck, for the most part so far, has been hoping for at least 50 entrees. So far, they've gotten about 25. Granted, they've been here for lunch instead of dinner, which is complicated. But to get them here, this year we kind of just said, hey, if you're going to Harlan for dinner, come here for lunch, and that worked out for them. Like, it's not a wasted day. But if I'm going to have them here for dinner, that's going to be a bit more difficult of a sell unless we can get more people out supporting them. And we're also trying not to conflict with the local restaurants in this regard, so this is a tight spot. I don't plan to bring food trucks here that flip burgers when there's places here that sell burgers. Like, mostly it's going to be like Mexican, Greek, things that you can't get here. So I'm happy to explore any of those. We're happy to keep doing that. We have the picnic tables now. They've been enjoyed. It's something we hope to keep doing. I've been talking to them about it. The problem is it's such a wild card. I don't know what to tell them in terms of what to expect. If enough people say they will come out on a Monday, we can probably hook one. Then if I have the confidence that people will show up, but if nobody shows up, then that's not good for us. Because they also talk to each other too. So it's hard for me to sell one of them when they go to the rest of them and it's a big food truck hive in Omaha or Des Moines and they tell them no, don't come here. So I'm hoping to. We will be, I've already talked to Eric with Spartan Pizza and we're setting up an agreement where he might be at the Windmill late one Tuesday per month this coming year. We still have to finalize that, but that's where we're going. And then we had family night. This was it ended up being a last minute thing, but I thought it was a lot of fun. I like trying to open the Windmill late once in a while, past 5 o'clock, so people with 9 to 5 jobs or what have you can come to the Windmill and enjoy themselves. Even if they don't want to shop, they can always just be outside and we have a food vendor. We had Spartan Pizza that night. We had muskmelon and watermelon there that board members were giving away. And it brought down people to the Windmill I had never seen down there before. So I thought that was a great hit. I'm hoping to do that quite a bit more this year, especially now that I can actually run the Windmill, because I couldn't for most of this period. It was fixed by August, but I was still kind of waiting for Eric by that point because I didn't know if anything was wrong with it. So just for safety reasons, I was kind of laying off. And then again, picnic tables, we got some canopies. One broke in the wind, but we'll replace that this year. The picnic tables have been a huge hit. I can't say that enough, how many times travelers are now staying there. And you have to think about, in tourism or people just kind of coming off the interstate, most of the time they're cranky, they're hungry, They're tired. They just want to get whatever they're coming. They just spent 10 minutes going over hills and unknown territory off the interstate. They thought we were right off the highway. So we deal with a lot of that. And it just gives them a moment to relax. And we saw that a lot this year, in addition to the axe throwing games that we pretty much had out there all the time. We had a new weather station. This is something I've tried to advertise. Unfortunately, it's not, I have an app, but it wouldn't work for any of you if you downloaded it. The app, for whatever reason, with this company only works with the person that owns the station. I went with this station, I would have went with a different one, but I went with this one because there's less moving parts, so there's less components that are likely to break. So it's on top of our utility pole behind the windmill right now. And so it's a good unit, especially for tracking wind. And that was the main reason for wanting it, because I can pull up on my phone, not just the current wind direction and wind speed, but projected wind directions and wind speeds. So I can say, oh, it's going to be windy this weekend. I can plan a grinding session this weekend. Things like that. So that's really useful for me. I can pull up the app anytime I want and get that. But the benefit is it's also publicly broadcasted data if you know where to go. So there's a web page, and I have it linked in a bunch of different places. If you still can't find it, let me know, and I'll tell you. But it's local weather. It's the most local weather you're possibly going to get. It's not a weather station 20 minutes away in any direction. It's here. And it's very high tech. It's accurate. So kind of, it's on any computer. It's a public website. But so what we're going to have, as I'm going to talk about in a minute, is our upgraded welcome center area, and this will be a feature on there as well. Mill inspection. So now we're in September, and we had Eric Battenberg come visit us from Denmark. I think this might have been the first ever time that a certified Danish millwright has ever actually inspected our windmill since it's been moved here. They tried a couple times and it didn't work out in like the 2015, 2016. So I think this might have been the first. And it went really well, and I'm going to talk about the extent of this inspection towards the end of today. I don't want to get bogged down in it now because it's all really interesting and very important for our growth as an organization. But the gist of it for now is it went great. And that's the stones turning. We held 2 grinding sessions in October. The one was kind of, I didn't broadcast it. It was just kind of me learning the ropes with them and practicing by myself. And then it happened to be windy enough when the Museum of Danish America's board members were in town, and I decided to fire them up that weekend too, and we had a lot of locals come, and some of them see the stones turn for the first time. So that was a fun experience and something we hope to do a lot more in 2024, now that we know that stones can work. Yulefest this year was not great. The windmill did fine. Like, we just eclipsed 2022's numbers in terms of sales. Like, we were fine. But the weather was kind of It was snowing on Saturday, so like a lot of places just kind of closed shop halfway through the day, which isn't great when you advertise a big event, but sometimes there's not much you can do. So it was all right. We had some new decorations. The lampposts there I built myself. Those were mainly for Christmas market, but they made the store look nice, and they brightened up that room a little bit. And then the shelving that you can kind of see in there, that was new as well. And they were mostly for this market. When I did this market for the first time in 2022, my goal was just to see how it had always been done and what could I improve next year. And my 2 big notes were more lighting, which was stating the obvious really, if you've ever been down there, and we needed modular shelving. Something to make this look less like a rundown flea market, but also organize product in a more accessible way that also made it easier to get in and out of. So Shane Scheckinger from Next Gen Creations in Harlan built these shelving units that actually copied, I think it's this one we got with product in Denmark when we bought from Klarborg for the first time in 2022. They're exact copies. And they've made it really helpful down at Christmas market to the point we sold $26,000 worth of product in 4 days. That is the entire month of August revenue in 30 hours of business in Des Moines. So thank you to Julie and Tammy, who's not here tonight, for helping me man our Huga hut down there. I mean, it was just incredible experience. We had 950 transactions during open business. If you calculate that by 30 hours, that's a sale every 2 minutes. It was insane. And I've told them already we're doing 30,000 next year. So, We're getting ready for that now. But it was a great time. It was probably the best weather we've ever had by far. We can't always count on that, but this was a weird year with El Nino and it being warmer, so that's definitely played into things. And finally, to kind of wrap up the exciting things for the year, we had Christmas lights again this year. Whoops, sorry. Thanks to Aaron Larson and Dirk Wasson at a Kimballton, Nate Potts came down and kind of gave me some wisdom of him watching his dad doing and helping him do it over the years. We pretty much have this set up so we can do it every year. Something I do want to emphasize with this is that Christmas lights aren't great for the windmill. It's not great for it to be stuck in one position for 2 months with water freezing and thawing inside the center point. The best thing for the windmill is to be able to be moving to shake that water out. So it's not something I want to keep forever. We held on a little bit longer this year just so I could get some new pictures with a higher quality resolution. So that's why they're still on there now. Otherwise, I would have had them torn down right after Christmas. But it's something that we do hope to continue doing as long as people want that. And now I'm just going to brush through. We went through revenue again. Mail orders, brand new catalog this year. If you ever saw our old Christmas catalog, they look kind of like a newspaper, not a lot of pictures, a ton of text. And notably, the pictures were all really small. So with our signature collectibles like the plates, Georg Jensen, Holmegard, our clientele, which is typically older, they could barely see these images. This really improved that. And I just designed it myself. It didn't cost us anything extra. We broke even on mailing them out just because we cut down our contacts. We essentially said anybody that hasn't bought from us since 2019 isn't getting one. So maybe we'll go back to them this year now that we have that new formula. But you know, it's expensive. So to send out about 3,000 catalogs, it costs $5,000. So we have to be smart and economical with this, which is what we tried to do this year. And we think it paid off. We ended up with 522 new customers because I was pushing this on Facebook and other places. 29 international orders. I can't tell you how many packages we had to Canada this year and how many issues we had with the post office in that regard, but that's neither here nor there. It was good for the most part. Mail orders actually could have probably been better this year had I focused more attention into doing sales and constant contacts with them and things like that. That's something I'm hoping to grow a little bit more planning this year. There were just too many other things going on, especially the mill repairs last year. That took up a ton of time trying to figure out how to do that economically before I just started getting trucks from Corning to reach up to those gearboxes. So hopefully I have more time this year to do that kind of digital marketing for products that encourages people to shop on the website and have sales and free shipping and all that stuff. Our Welcome Center overview. So we had 21,080 signatures this year. If you've been following the essentially the state formula for visitors, that's 72,207 visitors. I actually don't like that number. If you break that down, that's basically 200 people a day, which doesn't make any sense. So we definitely had more than 21,000, but I wouldn't say we had 72. But that's the state formula. That's what they go by. We had all 50 states, plus DC and Puerto Rico, 31 foreign countries, 361 visitors from Denmark, which I think is one of the pieces of paper I gave you. That was more than like Ohio. It's like 8th on our list in terms of states visited from, which is pretty crazy. And 18 group tours and school field trips, including a new field trip from Mercy High School in Omaha, which Alyssa and I coordinated together on. We had this ecology elective class come out, and they had a blast with both of us, I think, and it sounds like they're going to come back next year. So, again, great stuff. And guest book entries, I put this in here. I kind of thought the pattern was interesting because it's almost exactly the same every year. Yellow is obviously the COVID year. And then this piece here, I decided this year, since we're doing it anyway out in the cold, we're telling people to come to Elkhorn, we're going to count our Christmas market visitors. So that's why there's an extra spike this year, but it was still a higher year than last year and years past. Fundraising and development. So charity auction, we covered that. Donations, we covered that. Our endowment fund went up a little bit. We also didn't take out our grant money from the endowment fund this year. Every year we pretty much get like $3,000, $4,000. I didn't think it was necessary to take it out. We didn't need the funds. It's better to leave it in there and let it grow. And thankfully it did grow a little bit this year. And again, grants rewarded about $24,000. And some of these grants went towards these things. We got picnic tables with a grant from Iowa West that was awarded at the end of 2022. Yes?
How does that endowment grow? Does somebody, if somebody wants to donate, do they say, hey, I would like to put that in the endowment?
Yes.
Because normally if we do, donate, it's just we just write
Right.
didn't know if there was a certain way of promoting the endowment.
So a couple things. One, Omaha Community Foundation has offered to bring somebody down here to explain that. I thought about doing it for the annual meeting, but decided against it just because I don't want this to go on too long and be terribly boring. But it's also very important, right? So the endowment fund can be donated to by essentially sending us a check and saying you want this to go specifically in the endowment fund. And there's certain tax breaks that go into that. At this point, they're not very good because the queue is so long every single year that you probably won't see them until 2027 at this point, where it's like 25% off your state income tax or something like that. But yeah, essentially the only way for the endowment fund to grow is one, market gains, which it fluctuates back and forth. Like in Q2, it lost money, and then Q3, it surged back, or vice versa. Or if somebody sends us money earmarked for the endowment fund, in which case we would send it to Omaha Community Foundation, and then you would get notifications of how you can take advantage of the tax break when available and so forth.
So how do you look at that? I mean, okay, so I want to write a check out for $500. I mean, would you say, hey, I'd rather you do it for the endowment fund? Would you rather do it donate? I mean, do you have a personal thought on that, on having that endowment grow, or just having the money to be able to use it right now?
So ideally, the endowment fund is much larger, like the museum's is several $1,000,000. Ours isn't even $100,000. Ideally, it's larger because we can take more money out of it that would help us be self-sustaining. But the problem is because we're so inundated with our operating expenses, I don't think it's too cavalier to just put all of our donations in there. That's not going to help us. We would have to close. So there's a balance there. I don't quite know what that balance is yet. Something I'm going to suggest to the board when this meeting is over is merging our memorial funds with the endowment fund. So when people give us a check for memorial in somebody's honor or memory if somebody passes, it just goes in the endowment fund. Because currently it sits in an account with Shelby County State Bank, and it sits there at a terrible interest rate. No offense, Nicole. And we don't do anything with it because it's meant for special projects. And to me, there's nothing more special than the endowment fund and helping us grow as an organization in perpetuity. So that's something I'm going to suggest later today. And it would at least help our fund grow steadily over time in that way. I don't have anything else beyond that for the time being. I think if we were in a better financial place, we could allot X amount of dollars per year, but we're still kind of grasping for air in some ways, so I don't know if we're at that point yet. And so tech upgrades, Pomeroy Foundation, we got some new computers. Our mail order computer was in severe need of an upgrade. If you know computers, that one was operating on 4 gigabytes of RAM, which is snail's pace. So we upgraded that to 16. It's much faster now. Likewise, Tammy's office got a new computer for accounting, so we could process memberships and stuff like that in a much more efficient, speedy way. Tools and equipment I've covered, and then DanishWindmill.org. This is the other part of Wild Apricot I would like to talk about today. It's essentially a supplemental website that you get for free as part of the service with unlimited data. Now there's a catch to that, and you can only upload files that are so big. I can't, unfortunately, upload giant files on there altogether. It won't let me. But it still means that we can have unlimited content there. And it's just a supplemental part of our service, which is the membership and donation platform. So what that entails is basically a second website. And I realize this is going to be confusing. It'll probably be confusing for the next couple of years. The good example I would like to follow is the Metropolitan Museum of Art in New York. They essentially have, if you go on their website, you don't notice because it's seamless. They have 2 websites. One website is their organizational website, and then if you click on one tab, it takes you to their museum store, which is its own site, but it's blended so it looks exactly the same. And that's very common. So what I'm hoping to do is get there eventually with our current site, which I think we actually lose business from in the way that it's designed and formatted. It might have been a good site in 2010. I wouldn't call it a good website today. And unfortunately, it's very new, which is also kind of heartbreaking and all this. A lot of money was put into it, but it's not good, and I think it's hurting us. So that's something that's going to be addressed in the next couple of years, probably 2025. If I can get time this year, great. But we will develop this one in the meantime as an organizational website because it's also much more easier to use. For somebody like me without coding or web design experience, I can go in here and do all this myself. I don't have to pay somebody $125 an hour to do these things, and not necessarily well. So what it means is I've designed this site, and this was kind of by chance. Our old website, again, the donation platform crashed in October, which is right around giving season. So I had plans to design this year for a debut essentially next annual meeting. But I had to rush this in December because we had no other way to take donations online, which is pretty important this time of year. So while it had been existing since essentially the newsletter went out, if you were paying attention to the newsletter, it linked to this so you could look at past issues and stuff like that. It hadn't been fully developed until December when I kind of last minute did all this. So it might not necessarily look like this forever, but it's a good starting point. There's a couple different things. I don't expect you to be able to see all of it, but the first important thing is membership. The big thing I wanted to do was increase membership exposure. That is how you find the people that care about us the most. That is who you send out your donation appeals to. They're the ones that are most likely to give you money. And when I first got hired, one of the things I talked about was the lack of exposure of our membership program in the store. If you walk in, you could do the whole tour. You'd never know we had one. There are people here that never knew we had one. And so something that we've been building on is our membership program. We have signage. I've added a family membership this year, so now that couples, either a married couple that doesn't have kids or a married couple with kids, they can pay for an annual family membership for $20. It's just 2 individual memberships that now includes all your kids for free. And so there's some convenience there. There's some lure that, now a whole family can go tour the windmill as much as they want. And now they can also do it all online. So part of the tech upgrades that we had last year was we got a Chromebook that's going to sit up in our welcome center, and this page will be on there. So people can just walk in, they can sign up for a membership right here. Credit card, that's it. And they can even set it up so that it automatically renews every year. And they can learn about these different ones just by clicking. Individual, what's that? Family, what's that? Fellow for the real big shots. And if you scroll down, it tells you all about it. Donate. Our old website didn't have this either. It didn't really describe what all of our different funds were. And I'm still working on building this out. There isn't much in the endowment right now. There isn't much here. If you go to back on the grind, it just kind of says coming soon like it does on the sides there. I just haven't, like I said, I haven't had time to fully flesh this out. But the idea is they can go here and learn about our different campaigns and donate on a secure platform and track their donations on this same platform. And again, it just exposes them, if they click one of these buttons, it exposes them to more information about why this is important. Why is the Keep the Mill Turning campaign important? That covers our operating expenses. It keeps us open. Why is our capital campaign important? Why is our endowment campaign important? So those are all things that we'll be working on fleshing out this year as this develops. And then volunteer. So you guys will notice in all of your packets, I stuck in a little list of volunteers that was made by the Better Elkhorn Club in July 1977. This year, the windmill had, I don't know, it's on the back of the annual report, 10 volunteers. In July 1977, the windmill had 155 volunteers. I was blown away when I found that out. And it's a different era, right? It's not something that just went away. It's a different era. We have to be real about that. But something I want to emphasize going forward is, yes, we need donations, but it's not the only way to give. We can volunteer. There are ways for other people to help out if they so choose to. Tim Palmer here, who's been my best volunteer for 2023, he helped me put both gearboxes back up. He helped me when the shutter broke in October. He helped me build the cabinets for the break room. And he helped me today finishing the electrical for the Welcome Center update. Not everybody has to be able to do that, but it's a start. Janet Snyder is another one. I know Janet's not here tonight, but she's the only person I've had since I started that came down and say, hey, I want to volunteer for the windmill, what can I do? And for every Saturday for a couple months, she was just down at the windmill, helping customers, giving tours, until for medical reasons she had to step away, which is fine. But it was something easy. It was something to keep her time on the weekend, and we really appreciated that. And so what I'm doing with this website is there's 6 buttons total right now on this webpage. You can only see the 3, but you can click on any of these and just learn about ways that you can give back to the windmill for free. One project that I'm really excited about this year and I'm hoping to do, we're not going to get there yet. Alyssa at the Genealogy Center has all of the Elkhorn-Kimballton Review newspapers. They're all in bound books, and right now there is no timetable to get them digitized because of the owner. But I have my own scanners at the windmill. That's something that we purchased, again, as part of our tech upgrades in 2023. to digitize all of the photographs that we have, all the newspaper clippings that we have. I mean, we've got binders and binders and binders and boxes of stuff. But I really want what's in those newspapers because they go back a long ways and they show how different things used to be when everybody was volunteering at the windmill in some capacity or another. I'm not saying that everybody has to do that now, but those newspapers are so rich with that communal tradition. And on top of that, they're a great educational resource. That can be a primary source collection for our teachers and educators to teach about the history of the windmill to our current students. There's so many benefits to getting those scanned, and so I'm hoping that somebody will step forward. We have the equipment to do it, and it just means hanging out with Alyssa and probably Wanda for a few days and just clicking pictures of newspapers. It sounds fun to me, but I have other things to do. So otherwise, I hope to get there eventually, but it's an easy project that I'm hoping somebody might be interested in taking up. And I mean, you also just get to read those fun newspapers all day. So again, there's a whole tab here. Something else I'm offering, people can come down and give tours. Everybody here knows about the windmill in some capacity. No tour is the same. You're welcome to come down there anytime and give a tour, which means that staff can stay inside the store, make sure we're not getting robbed, pay attention to customers, which are, again, always irate and tired and hungry and just want customer service so they can leave. We need all the help we can get. So this is, again, a positive way to encourage people to get involved that doesn't involve writing a check. It's just a little bit of time, and any amount helps. And so this is something else that was exciting. In 2022, I digitized this whole account book using the same scanner that somebody would use if they wanted to use those newspapers. Unfortunately, this account book, the file resolution photos for this are huge, so I can't upload the whole thing on this website. I might be able to do it on the other one. I doubt it. It's like 2 gigabytes of data. But you can download it. There's a link on here where you can view it yourself. It's kind of complicated. You have to know what a zip file is, but it is on there, and you can look at the whole thing. So that was something that we're really excited about. This is, for anybody that doesn't know, this is the last miller's logbook from when the mill was in operation in the 20th century. It was owned by the Vestergaard family and was given to Lisa in 2013 after it kind of just reemerged. And it details a lot of the business transactions that took place with this windmill from 1919 till it burned down in the 40s, and then it picks up a little bit again before the Vestergaard family sells the windmill. And then this page is also on there. This is going to be kind of the center of our new Welcome Center update, so to speak, is I've drafted a web page because, again, this software is so easy to use, that links to every other attraction. If you scroll down, it's got every place to eat. If you scroll down further, it's got shopping. If you scroll down further, it's got lodging. The hotel is actually on there. It's for sale, but Trudy's place is on there. Elizabeth's place is on there. And it's all in one place. You can plan your whole trip here. And it's got phone numbers, it links to every website. And that's just the beginning of what we can do with this website. So this is something we'll be marketing. And on top of that, you have the link to the most recent Elkhorn brochure there as well. So upcoming projects. I mentioned the Welcome Center one. That is underway now. What it entails is we have that desk, we have the Chromebook, I just got to get the lock set up, and then in this fun space right here is going to be a TV that's going to have this on it. And that will change automatically every single day. We no longer have to have a dry erase board that's half erased. I can also put sales, I can put events, and what we're also going to have is a social media wall. It's not going to look quite like this, it's just not a good picture of one. But think about this, for Tivoli, people are going to come, they can see this with our hashtag, that instructions of what to do. Go outside, snap a photo, put it on Instagram. By the time they walk back in, it will be on the TV. So, and that is going to broadcast to their followers. It's free advertising to wherever they're coming from. Social media walls are very trendy right now. It's a huge thing, and it's something that I think we should really take advantage of. It also shows that we're very modern. It encourages us that, these are fun features. The goal in tourism is to get people coming back more than once. It's not just to get them there, it's to get them to want to come back. And these are the things that do that. It's fun, it's engaging, it's interactive, it's interesting. And so that's the goal with this whole Welcome Center setup, is to not only advertise the town, but also just pull people in with fun, new, innovative ways. So let's go back. New entertainment building. I'm going to be writing a grant for this probably tomorrow if I have the energy. It's going to have to be tomorrow. That building right there is the old hot dog stand, from what I've been told, from the grocery store that's no longer here. It's falling apart. I think the awning might be holding it together at this point. I'm not quite sure. The cinder blocks behind it. We need storage. Something I emphasized already, we don't have a lot of room for product. We have a ton of things inside, extra fixtures, Christmas lights, plumbing stuff. There's a lot of things in our basement that don't need to be there. In addition to storing the picnic tables, we've been storing the picnic tables in the Viking Yam. If they want to do more events, like we talked about doing Santa in the Forge, essentially for like a Christmas thing, I can't put the picnic tables there. They have to be somewhere else. We have all the yard games that have been really popular. A new membership benefit that I'm emphasizing is come down. You guys can access this stuff at any time. Treat us like a recreational library. Come down there, take the axe throwing out, enjoy it, put it back, and have a great day. We need space for that. And so we'll be writing a grant for a new entertainment building that can house all the stuff I just mentioned, but also a new sound system for our Danish dancers. So you no longer have to fight to hear them over the breeze and everybody else in the crowd. I think that would really boost the engagement for Tivoli because it is really hard to hear the music and everything else going on currently. So this would also facilitate the ability to store a new sound system for all that. So that's a project coming up. And Bruce thankfully modeled this for us. This is our axe throwing kit. This was very popular this year. We're happy to throw it out whenever we can. And again, even if we don't have it out there, I'm encouraging members, if you ever want to use it, just come down and ask. We'll take it out for you. It's part of your deal. The next thing, so one big announcement was that digital welcome center thing. The other thing that I teased for tonight was this. This is the Shelby County Historical Museum. My fiance over there, that's her place. She runs that. And this is actually a brand new thing that she just got recently called a virtual tour. It's essentially Google Earth or Google Street View inside your attraction. So you can click on these arrows and explore the whole museum. You can have buttons that says like reserve this space or learn more. You can have artificial walls on here that maybe dedicate to your members. You can do all kinds of stuff. I've recently signed the contract to do this. Shelby County State Bank has agreed to put $500 towards it as a sponsor. The total project will probably be about $1,500. And they're going to come out and take the photographs when it's warmer. So what it entails is essentially taking photographs with a panoramic lens. And it's one shot that goes a long way. So the windmill's not a big building. That's not going to take that many. And then what I'm telling them to do is go to Morningstar Chapel outside, Appletoft Village, and then take the path down to the Viking Yam. So they can read all this. You'll be able to, it's high quality. You can read every sign all the way down that path and all the way back. And so it's probably just 25 shots total. This can then be put online for members that aren't around here. They can tour the entire complex from their living room. It can also be paywalled so that it's great if you're a member, but if you're not, we can get people in Denmark to pay $5 to take the tour of our windmill. It's easy money, and it's innovative, and it's also fun, and it also ties into Google's algorithms, because this uses Midwest Pano, which is very tight with Google. They've been working together a long time on projects like this. So essentially, it puts us in Google's kind of like favorite lists. So we're more likely to come up for specific searches and things like that, because of the algorithms for companies that use this kind of tech. So there's a lot of positives that go into this, and it's really not a lot of money. So I'm really excited for this to come out. Like I said, we're just waiting for nicer weather and hopefully get the windmill cleaned up a little bit inside, and we can always just retake photos as exhibits evolve and so forth. And I don't have a way to give this as a visual yet, but what we can do is inside the windmill, you can have buttons where you click on the stones and it pulls up a video of the stones running, or the flower, or whatever. There is so much you can do with this, and it costs almost nothing. So this is going to be a huge improvement this year that I think can make us a lot of money we otherwise wouldn't see in the long run if we can broadcast it to Danes and other people from around the country that can't make it to Elkhorn every day. And then this is the last thing I was going to talk about, was the volunteer project. This is news from the mill. I do want to highlight this person right here. I think her name should have been plastered all over the place a long time ago, Susan Noon. She had a disability that actually affected her severely and kept her from working most regular jobs. She still volunteered at the windmill all the time. And her job essentially was to call people and schedule their volunteer hours to come to the windmill 1, 2, 3 hours a month, a week, whatever. And I do wish that she was recognized, so I'm hoping to do something with that too this year in addition to the newspaper project, because I think more people should know about her story, especially just briefly what I've read. It's actually incredible, and I think it's a big inspiration going forward to think about people like her and what they contributed for us. And finally, the capital campaign. Mostly, I just haven't had time to thread this all together yet. If you guys got the newsletter in fall, it lists out the different projects. It's great. There's a lot of upgrades we can make to the windmill. Some of them we already have, like putting the weights on it and things like that. There's other things that need attention, but they're not as important as operating expenses, which is naturally why I haven't been able to develop that yet, because everything else needs to be emphasized first. It would be nice to have a functional windmill in every single way that's purely authentically Danish and so forth. A lot of the things that I lay out in the newsletter, and I can talk about at length if people have questions, but they're luxuries. The windmill works right now. It's fine the way it is. The reality from Eric's inspection is that we would need grindstones probably in 5 years at the rate we'd use them, which means we can do other stuff and the grindstones, or we can just start setting money away now for grindstones in 5 years if that's the route we want to go. I do hope to grind more this year. I do hope to produce an image, an upgraded image of the windmill as one that's fully functioning and works. It's not just an old building you can tour, it's one that's living and working and operating, and that you can actually walk back in time inside it. That's the goal this year. That's why grinding is so important and why running it is so important. So it's not just standing there. And that goes a long way. A lot of projects in here, such as improving the brake cable apparatus, the new stones, there's a whole bunch of other things in there. It's all great stuff, like getting the pulley system working again, which would require moving the sprinkler head that somebody installed right over it. All things like that would be great. But again, my main concern right now is operating expenses. So we will continue to develop this in the next month or so. I'm hoping to have this ready by March so that we can really kind of hit the ground with it come tourist season and really try to capture donations that way from people that aren't here but are invested and interested and so forth. It will get developed. It's just I do also want to emphasize it shouldn't be the priority. The priority should be, for the time being, staying open. And it's a catch-22, obviously. The more interesting you are, the easier it is to stay open and vice versa. But we only have so many resources, and we have to be smart with them. So I'm happy to start just fundraising for this, but I do think we need to get a more even footing first. And that's because of this number. So again, it was a fantastic year. Please do not take this as this is doom and gloom. I mean, this could be the start of something huge, and I hope the article in the newsletter that you guys picked up today really emphasizes that. I really do. This is a momentous year. It's a foundation to build off of, but we have to be realistic and we have to have conversations that I don't think have been had in a very, very long time. I really care about this place. I'm not from here. I hope everybody else does too. So thank you.
Excuse me, does anyone have any questions for Shaun that they feel like they need answered? I'm
Shaun,
sure
do
he's,
you know what the average we brought in for the charity auction when we were holding them in November?
It's tough to tell because COVID really kind of like, as it was getting momentum, it just fell apart. But there were some years that brought in $20,000. I mean, it was a lot of money, but it was a lot of it, I think, was in chairs and other things that people, either weren't offering or just weren't available. And then other people that were big spenders didn't attend last year for whatever reason. So there's a lot of different factors that go into that, but it used to be very profitable. Yeah.
You did know that rag prize coming to Atlantic, didn't you?
Yes, I did see that. I don't know what to do yet other than I'm hoping to advertise a grinding session sometime during that trip. I mean, they'll be in the, yeah, so, and that's like the 22nd or 23rd, so it's in the middle of the week. I'm hoping to at least have the windmill grinding that time if the wind cooperates, but if anybody has other suggestions for what to do while they're here, I'm all ears.
Think they have water for them down at the windmill? They have like a water sprinkler or something? Yeah, we used to have a long thing with water, they put their bottle in front of it.
But was that when they were actually taking 44? Because they're not going to be coming right through this year.
You're thinking that, no, or that they might be riding the bikes?
No, it's just the crowd is going to be within our sphere.
I think some of them will ride bikes up here. If they do, I think you have to have some place where they can fill their water bottles. And they'll probably get the visitor station in the
have any questions or comments of things they would like to see happen or ideas? If not, I know Shaun's always open to
You know where to,
anything.
you know where to find me. You know where I work.
I did like the idea of the flags coming into town. It was visible to tourists and stuff, you know, when they had the flags right across, you know. It was just beautiful. We're in the park, they're not really, you know, people
Tivoli.
driving in aren't gonna see it. But you're wanting to use that area for the,
Yeah, and if we get the people that we're expecting, which I think could be huge for the town going forward, we have to at least, you know,
have that many.
play into it. They'll need the whole thing. I mean, the amount of tents that they bring alone, it's going to take up that whole space.
It sounds like
Yeah.
it'd be fun.
Yeah, I mean, it's different from flags, but I think it'll still be an incredible sight if it shows up the way they've been telling me. But they have to hold up their end too. I can only do so much.
If that's all we've got for the night, could I have a motion to adjourn the meeting? Bill? Meeting's adjourned at 7:05. Thanks everybody for coming, and help yourself to more food. I think there's plenty out there.
Thank you for the.
Yeah.